Hey, welcome back to Vox Terra. So to some people, the final days of the Trump administration look more like the fallen hero being taken down. But to others, myself included in this category, the final days of the Trump administration remind me more of a punk rock song by a band called The Exploited. The title of this song is Death and Destruction, but don't forget the chaos. So here's why it looks that way to me. One, I recently received a text alert from the Sierra Club, and that is that in the final days, the administration is trying to push through the leasing of oil and gas leases in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. The Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is a last vast untouched tract of land in the Americas. It provides habitat for threatened and non-threatened species. Its undisturbed nature creates buffers and sequestration areas for man-made pollution and greenhouse gases. So what I mean by that is undisturbed nature actually filters us from the trouble our constant consumer capitalism is making, or buffers us or protects us from it. Those trees, that wildlife, that wilderness absorbs those toxins. It absorbs those greenhouse gases. Well, next, ANWR also provides space for the Gwich'in. The Gwich'in are a native or First Nations tribe that live primarily north of the Arctic Circle, and apparently they use ANWR as a place for subsistence hunting. So by protecting this area, we're protecting ourselves from our own pollution, and we're also allowing people the freedom to live off of the land. The oil and gas that could be found there should be left in the ground. We already have far too much fossil fuels been dug up and burned and added to the atmosphere. Remember, that Arctic sea ice is in the process of melting. So my impression is that ANWR has been on the Republican Party, and I'm sorry to say, but the Republican Party hit list for quite some time now. Based on an article from the Sierra Club over the summer, Trump administration continues rushed push to drill in the Arctic Refuge. August 17th of 2020. Remember that from that article, I'm confirming that the 2017 tax bill, infamous for cuts to the wealthy, also included a rider to open drilling in the Arctic. And according to that Sierra Club letter, it was during that time frame that, quote, political appointees of the Department of the Interior rushed through environmental review process, disregarding or altering work of career scientists. So that line gets me to the point that these media outlets that prop up Trump, and they're going to prop up another false hero after him, like to cry deep state as a form of, or they abuse the term deep state rather, to use it as a process to intimidate career civil servants and career scientists at these agencies, so these industry-connected appointees can then have more power to run roughshod and say, look, we're standing up to the deep state. So from there, my impression is that lawsuits and litigation from environmental groups have slowed down that process of opening up ANWR. Just after it looked like Trump had finally lost the election and Biden's on his way in, I was listening to a Living on Earth episode. The Living on Earth episode interviewed an environmental lawyer, and the host asked him, well, can Joe Biden protect ANWR? The lawyer said, as long as the leases aren't actually sold, those companies won't have an economic interest at stake, and it'd be very easy to undo this opening of ANWR to drilling. But once those leases are sold, now those companies have a real tangible monetary stake that will need to either be bought out or that contract undone. Well, you would think if someone's on their way out, why would they want to rush through the drilling of the Arctic? Well, one possibility is Trump is trying to signal to the fossil fuel interests that are supporting him, hey, look, stick with me in the next round and I'm going to make good for you. That's one possibility. But let's look at other last-minute actions. Now, this was first brought to my attention from Democracy Now!, but I also found an article from Defense News confirming it. Here, I'll read you the title headline from Defense News. Amid veto threat, Senate rejects ban on Trump's big United Arab Emirates arms sale, by Joel Gould. I believe it was in December 10th of 2020. The Senate narrowly rejected two measures Wednesday to block President Donald Trump's plan to sell roughly $23 billion in weapons to the United Arab Emirates. That sale included defense weapons makers, including the company Raytheon. Now, I bring up Raytheon to be fair, because I'm also going to criticize Joe Biden. Joe Biden's latest pick, retired Army General Lloyd, also quoting Mother Jones magazine, sits on the board of Raytheon. And it's important to point out Biden's connections with the military-industrial complex as well, because if we don't do that, then what will happen is these media outlets trying to present someone like Trump or Trump himself as a false hero will grab onto that. So we have drilling of the Arctic, massive weapon sales in the last days, and also we have a push-through wave of federal executions. This also was brought to my attention on a show called Democracy Now!, where I heard a nun who is opposed to the death penalty discussing some of those people up for execution. It was her and also another woman who is an advocate for child sex abuse victims, I believe. So one of the people scheduled for execution is a woman. That woman apparently was a victim of child sex slavery. Now, yes, she committed a heinous crime, but according to this interview, she's also, for lack of a better word, detached from reality. So now we look at pushing drilling for the Arctic, perhaps to send signals to the fossil fuel industries. Pushing through sales of weaponry, perhaps to send a signal to a military-industrial complex or to an ally or something of that nature. But either way we look at it, those two components are both supports for large business interests. They're the government supporting interests. They're not the government or the president standing up to elites. And finally, the pushing through of executions. Well, some of these people have very troubled lives. And if the signal there is to say law and order, I believe there must be better ways to signal that. And until next time, please subscribe to my channel. Please click that notification bell. Please comment, please like, please share, and peace be with you.